The hook and suspense. The planet Arden 5 was not like other worlds. Its skies were deep purple, and the ground was covered with plants that glowed softly in the dark. It looked beautiful from a distance, almost like a dream. But everyone in the human colony knew the truth. It was dangerous. Not because of the storms, not because of the wild animals, but because of them. They will kill you if you get too close. People would whisper. They can control your mind. Others would add. No one had ever returned from the alien territory. The stories said the alien females were tall, strong, and more intelligent than any human. They were protectors of their land, and they didn't forgive trespassers for years. The humans stayed on their side of the border. It was an unspoken rule, a line no one crossed. But there was one man who did not believe in fear. His name was Commander Elias Kane. Kane had served in the Space Marines for 15 years. He had faced pirates in the asteroid belt, fought off alien raiders near the moons of Vera, and survived 3 shipwrecks in deep space. Fear was not something that controlled him. To him, the alien females were not monsters. They were just unknown, and Kane had never been able to resist the unknown. One evening, while the twin suns were setting and the air was turning cool, Kane stood on the edge of the border. In front of him, the alien jungle stretched far and wide. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches glowing faintly like the veins of some giant creature. A strange mist moved between them, hiding shapes and shadows. Somewhere inside that mist, they were watching behind Kane. A group of colonists gathered. Quietly, some stood with folded arms, others whispered nervously. An older man called out, "Kane, turn back. You'll never make it out alive." A woman shook her head. "Don't do this, Commander. You don't know what they'll do to you." Kane did not answer. He adjusted the strap of his survival pack, checked the sidearm on his hip, and took a slow breath. In his mind, he could almost hear his father's voice. "Fear keeps you alive, son, but courage makes you human." With one step, he crossed the invisible line that separated the human colony from alien land. The air changed. Instantly, it was warmer here, heavier, and full of scents that didn't exist on the human side. Sweet smells, sharp smells, and something metallic, like the taste of blood. The sound of the colony faded behind him, replaced by a quiet hum. It was not the wind. It was as if the jungle itself was alive and breathing. Kane moved carefully, eyes scanning every shadow. Plants here were strange. Their leaves shimmered when he walked past, and some flowers turned to face him like curious animals. A thick vine hung from a branch, pulsing with soft blue light. When he touched it, it felt warm, almost like skin. Somewhere in the distance, a high-pitched cry echoed through the jungle. It did not sound human. Kane kept walking, deeper into the unknown. Every few steps he felt the weight of eyes on him. Not one pair, but many. It was not paranoia. He knew they were out there. The alien females were watching, deciding what to do with the intruder. After an hour, Kane reached a clearing. The mist parted slightly, and in the fading light, he saw them. 2 figures stood on the other side of the clearing. They were tall, taller than him, with long dark hair that shimmered like liquid metal. Their skin was pale with a faint glow, and their eyes were not like human eyes. They were deep, endless, like looking into the heart of a star. Neither of them moved. They simply stood there, watching him. Kane felt something in his chest, not fear, but pressure, as if their gaze was pushing into his mind, searching. He thought of his home, his friends, the colony. Then he thought of the warnings, the fear, the lies people told to keep everyone away from this place. Kane raised his hands slowly, showing he was not here to fight. "I'm Elias Kane," he said, his voice steady. The alien females exchanged a glance. One of them tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something only she could hear. Then, in a voice like soft thunder, she spoke, not in words he knew, but in a language that felt like it was being whispered directly into his mind. Kane did not understand the meaning, but he understood the feeling. They were inviting him. Or warning him. Either way, there was no turning back now. From the shadows, more figures began to appear. 3, 4, maybe 5 alien females, stepping silently into the clearing. Their presence was overwhelming. Kane knew the people at the colony would never believe what he was seeing, but they would never see it for themselves, because no one else would be brave. Only him. He took another step forward. The air grew heavier. The jungle seemed to lean in closer. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, though the sky above was clear. Kane's journey had begun, and whatever waited ahead, it would change the future of humans and aliens forever. First contact, the clearing felt like another world. It was silent, yet the air was full of invisible sound. Kane could feel it vibrating in his bones. The alien female stood in front of him, still and watchful, like statues carved from light. He noticed their movements were different from humans. When they tilted their heads or shifted their weight, it was smooth, almost too perfect. Every step they took made no sound, even on the soft ground. Their eyes never left his. It was not the stare of curiosity, but of calculation. Kane's training told him to look for weapons, but he saw none. No blades, no guns. Nothing that seemed dangerous, yet something inside him knew. They didn't need weapons, they were. The weapon. One of them stepped forward. Her skin had a faint shimmer, as if light was trapped beneath the surface. When she spoke, Kane realized her lips barely moved. The sound was not coming from her mouth, but inside his mind. It wasn't a voice exactly, more like a vibration that shaped itself into meaning. "Why have you come here, human?" Kane hesitated. He had expected a language barrier, but this was direct. It felt strange, like someone touching his thoughts. He answered out loud anyway, his voice steady. "I came to see the truth about your people." The alien's eyes narrowed slightly. Truth was not a safe word in this place. Another female stepped forward, this one with hair the color of night. Her gaze was sharper, heavier. She circled Kane slowly, her steps almost floating above the ground. He felt as if she was measuring him, inside and out. They exchanged glances with each other, a silent conversation Kane could not hear. Then the first alien turned back to him. "You will walk with US," she said. It was not a request. Kane followed. The jungle closed in quickly, vines curling overhead, leaves whispering against each other. Strange lights glowed in the shadows, not from plants this time, but from small creatures hovering in the air. Their bodies were transparent, their wings humming like tiny engines. The air was thick and sweet, making every breath feel heavy. Kane's senses sharpened. He could hear the faint crack of distant branches, the soft ripple of water somewhere ahead. Every so often, he caught the alien females looking back at him, their expressions unreadable. They moved like a single mind. If one turned, the others shifted instantly. When they stopped, Kane stopped. It felt like stepping into a dance he didn't know the steps to. After a while, they reached a narrow path that seemed carved through the jungle. The ground here was different, smoother, almost polished. Symbols glowed faintly along the sides, etched into stones half buried in the soil. Kane crouched for a moment, running his fingers over the carvings. They were warm to the touch, older than the colony, older than any human map of this planet. One alien spoke softly, the meaning spilling into his mind again. "You do not belong here, but you walk without fear." Kane met her gaze. "I've seen fear. This is something else." Her expression did not change, but Kane thought he saw a faint flicker of approval in her eyes. They continued walking until the path ended at a wide, still pool of water. The surface was so clear it looked like glass. Around it grew tall plants with silver leaves that rustled. Without wind, the tallest alien stepped forward, dipping her hand into the water. A ripple spread out, and with it came images. Flashes in Kane's mind, mountains of crystal, skies lit with storms of fire, strange cities that floated in the fancy air. He realized these were not dreams, they were memories. Their memories. One of the aliens came closer to him, so close he could feel a faint heat coming from her skin. Her eyes searched his face. And then his thoughts, your people destroy what? They cannot understand, she said. It was not an accusation, it was a fact. Cain didn't deny it. Instead, he answered, maybe. But some of us try to protect what we find. For the first time, he saw a small shift in her expression. Not a smile exactly, but something less cold. They stepped back and spoke to each other in that silent way again. Then the leader turned to Cain. If you wish to understand us, you must pass the test. Cain felt the air grow heavier, the ground beneath him humming faintly. This was no ordinary meeting anymore. This was the beginning of something deeper and much more dangerous. The test. Cain stood at the edge of the still pool. The alien females had moved into a loose circle around him. Their eyes glowed faintly in the soft jungle light. The leader, the tallest of them, stepped forward. Her presence was heavier than before, almost pressing on his chest. To know us, you must be known. Her voice echoed in his mind. To walk here, you must show your true self. Cain didn't move. He kept his hands at his sides, but his mind was racing. He had no idea what they meant by true self. In his experience, alien tests could mean anything: strength, intelligence, or survival. But the way they looked at him told him this was something far stranger. The leader reached out her hand. Her fingers were long, with faint silver patterns moving beneath the skin. When she touched his forehead, Cain felt a sharp pull, like falling without moving. Suddenly, the jungle was gone. He was standing in the middle of an old battlefield. The smell of smoke filled the air, and the ground was littered with broken weapons. Cain recognized this place. It was from years ago, during the border war on Vera. He saw himself, younger, shouting orders, pulling a wounded soldier to safety. But he also saw the enemy soldiers lying on the ground, some still alive. He remembered not being able to save them. The pain of that moment hit him again, sharper than before. The alien's voice whispered, "Through the memory, we see your courage, we see your mercy." Then the scene shifted. Now he was back on his home station, sitting at a table with his younger sister. She was laughing, handing him a piece of bread. But as he reached for it, the station alarms began to scream. Explosions rocked the walls, and the light in her eyes faded. The memory burned. And Cain had to fight to keep breathing. "We see your loss," the alien said. And the anger that grew from it. The visions kept coming. Moments of victory, moments of failure, times when he chose to fight, and times when he walked away. Cain realized they were not only seeing his memories, they were weighing them, judging every choice he had ever made. Finally, the battlefield faded, and he was back in the clearing. The leader stepped back, her eyes unreadable. Two of the others moved forward, now, each carrying a small round object that glowed faintly. They placed them on the ground in front of him. One pulsed with warm light, the other with cold blue light. "Choose," the leader said. Her voice in his head was calm, but Cain could feel the weight behind the word. He looked at the objects carefully. The warm one seemed alive, almost breathing. The cold one felt still, quiet, almost dead. "What happens if I choose wrong?" Cain asked. The alien leader tilted her head slightly. "There is no wrong choice, only truth." That answer didn't make him feel any better. He thought for a long moment, then reached for the cold one. As soon as his hand touched it, the air around him shifted. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. The object dissolved into his skin, leaving behind a strange tingling in his arm. The aliens studied him closely. One of them murmured something in their own tongue. The leader finally spoke again. "You walk the path of stillness. You will not strike first, but you will not fall easily." Cain wasn't sure what that meant, but he sensed he had passed the first part of whatever this test was. The leader turned away and began walking. Without a word, the others followed. Cain had no choice but to go with them, deeper into the jungle. They moved faster now, the path winding between massive roots and strange rock formations. The air grew hotter, and the distant sound of rushing water filled Cain's ears. He realized the jungle itself seemed to be watching him, not just the aliens. Leaves shifted as he passed. Flowers opened and closed, small creatures peeked. From behind branches, after what felt like hours, they stopped at the mouth of a cave. The entrance was dark, but from inside came a soft, pulsing light. The leader pointed to it. "Enter alone," she said. Kane looked at her for a moment, but her expression didn't change. He stepped inside. The air was cooler here, and the walls shimmered faintly as if lined with crystal. The light grew brighter as he walked deeper. At the center of the cave stood a tall, thin structure, like a pillar made of glass. Inside it, something moved, shifting between shapes. It was beautiful, but it pulsed with a power that made the hair on his neck rise. Kane took a step closer. The pillar's surface rippled, and he saw his reflection twist. It wasn't just showing his face. It was showing versions of him that never existed. A Kane who had chosen different paths, made different choices, lived different lives. Some were better, some worse, but all felt real. A whisper filled the cave. "This is who you are, and who you could be." Kane reached out, his fingers brushing the cool surface. The light surged, and the world spun again. When his vision cleared, he was outside the cave. The aliens stood there, waiting. None of them spoke. But Kane knew the test was not over. It had only begun. The warning. The air outside the cave was different now. It was heavier, almost electric. The alien female stood in silence, watching Kane as if measuring every breath he took. The leader's eyes lingered on him longer than before, as if the test inside the cave had revealed something she did not expect. Without a word, they began walking again. Kane followed, his mind still replaying the strange visions from the pillar. Each step took them deeper into the jungle until the trees thinned and opened into a wide plateau. From here, Kane could see far beyond the border. The human colony was just a faint smudge in the distance. Surrounded by endless green, the leader stopped near the edge. The others formed a half circle around Kane when she spoke. Her voice in his mind was heavier than before. "Do you know why your kind is feared here, human?" Kane shook his head slowly. "I've heard the stories, but I don't believe all of them." The leader's expression did not change. "You believe what is safe to believe," she said, "but safety is not truth." She lifted her hand, and the air between them shimmered. A vision formed, floating like smoke. Kane saw the surface of Arden 5 as it had been centuries ago, full of light, with vast floating cities above. The jungle and crystal towers reaching toward the purple sky. Alien children played in gardens of silver leaves, and rivers of blue water flowed between glowing fields. Then the vision shifted. The skies filled with human ships. They came not with greetings but with drills, weapons, and machines. Forests were cut, rivers turned black, and the alien cities began to crumble. The sound of screams and fire filled the air. Kane's stomach tightened. "That wasn't us," he said quickly. "Humans only arrived here a few decades ago." The leader's gaze pierced deeper into him. "It was your kind from another place, another time," she said. "Different faces. Same hunger." The images faded, but the feeling they carried stayed heavy in Kane's chest. "We do not forget what was taken from us," she continued, "and we will not let it happen again." Another alien stepped forward, her eyes sharper than the rest. Her voice was colder. "If humans cross deeper into our lands, there will be no mercy." Kane looked at them. "I'm not here to take anything," he said. "I came to understand you." The leader tilted her head slightly. "Words are wind, intent is the root." She pointed toward the far jungle where dark storm clouds had gathered. "Even now, there are those among your kind who look at our home and see something to claim." Kane followed her gaze. In the distance, he thought he saw the faint glint of metal. A ship? A drone? He couldn't tell, but the thought that someone from the colony might already be moving toward the alien lands made his pulse quicken. The leader's voice dropped lower in his mind. "We are giving you this warning because you are not like the others, but do not mistake this for weakness. If the line is crossed, we will strike first." Kane understood the weight of those words. They weren't just talking about defending themselves. They were talking about eliminating the threat before it could even rise. That meant destroying the colony if they had to. For a moment, no one moved. The jungle around them was silent, as if listening. Finally, the leader turned away from the edge and began walking toward a path that led deeper into the plateau. "Come," she said. "There is more you must see." Cain followed, his mind heavy with the images they had shown him. If what they feared was real, then he had only a short time to prevent a disaster. But the more he walked beside them, the more he realized stopping that disaster might not be possible at all. The path the aliens chose was narrow and winding. It cut through tall walls of stone. The surface is covered with glowing vines that pulsed in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Cain noticed the air felt heavier here, not just with heat, but with something unseen. It was as if the jungle itself knew where they were going. None of the alien females spoke. Even their movements seemed quieter now, more deliberate. Cain stayed close, careful not to touch the vines. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he sensed they were leading him towards something important, something dangerous. After nearly an hour of walking, the path opened into a hidden valley. Sunlight poured through gaps in the rock above, scattering across a wide lake so still it looked like polished glass. In the center of the lake stood a tall, jagged spire of crystal, glowing with a faint white light. The glow was not steady, it pulsed slowly, like it was alive. Cain stopped. His instinct screamed that this was not just a rock. It was something powerful. The alien leader stepped beside him, her voice in his mind soft but heavy. "This is the heart of our world." Cain stared at it. The crystal's surface seemed to shift and ripple, as if it held liquid light inside. Every pulse sent a faint vibration through the ground beneath his boots. It was hypnotic, almost calling to him. The leader continued, "Before the first city was built, before the first seed was planted, the heart was here. It gives life to the land, heals the wounded, and carries the memory of our people." Cain's eyes narrowed slightly. "Memory?" he asked. The alien nodded slowly. "It remembers everything, every birth, every death, every choice. It holds the truth of who we are." Another alien stepped forward, her voice colder. "It can also destroy, if turned to the wrong purpose." Cain looked back at the crystal. He could believe it, even from here. He could feel a faint power pressing against his thoughts. It was like standing near a storm, beautiful, but dangerous. The leader's tone grew sharper. "This is why we do not allow your kind near our heart. It is not just a treasure. It is our life. If taken, the land will wither, the rivers will die, and our people will fade." Cain understood now why the aliens were so protective. He also understood why humans would want it. If the crystal could heal and store memory, it could be the most valuable object in the galaxy, and that made it the most dangerous. The leader studied him carefully. "You have seen it. Few outside our kind ever do. This is trust, but it is also warning." Cain nodded slowly. "I'm not here to take it," he said, "but I can't promise others won't try." Her gaze didn't waver. "Then you must decide, human, when they come. Will you stand with them or with us?" Cain didn't answer right away. The truth was, he didn't know. His loyalty to his people was strong, but so was his growing respect for the alien females and their world. The more time he spent here, the more he realized that the line between friend and enemy was not as clear as he once thought. The leader turned away from the lake. "Come. There is one more place you must see before you leave." As they walked away, Cain glanced back at the crystal. The light inside it seemed to flicker for just a moment. He had the strange feeling it was watching him too, and deep down, he knew, if humans ever learned exactly where it was, the heart of Arden 5 would never be safe again. The betrayal. The journey back from the crystal heart was slower. The alien female said little, but Cain could feel the shift in their mood. Their movements were sharper, their eyes scanning the jungle more often. Something had changed. They were alert, as if sensing trouble before it arrived. When they reached the plateau again, the leader stopped suddenly, her gaze fixed on the far tree line. Kane followed her eyes and felt a cold knot in his stomach. A faint glint of metal flickered in the distance. It was the sun catching on something man-made. Kane's pulse quickened. "That's human tech," he said under his breath. The leader's voice pressed into his mind. "Harder than before. You were not the only one who crossed the line." From the shadows of the jungle, a man emerged. He wore the dark armor of the colonial security forces. His visor reflected the alien light, hiding his eyes. Behind him, two more figures stepped out, each carrying heavy rifles. Kane recognized the one in front, Captain Mercer, a corporate officer known for doing whatever the highest bidder wanted. Mercer's voice was calm, almost friendly. "Well, Kane, I didn't think I'd find you here." But his eyes flicked past Kane to the alien leader, and then further, toward the path leading to the Crystal Valley. "I heard rumors, and now I see they're true," he said. "There's something valuable here, isn't there?" Kane stepped between Mercer and the aliens. "Turn around, Mercer. You don't know what you're dealing with," Mercer smirked. "Oh, I think I do. And if it's worth this much protection, then it's worth taking," one of the alien females stepped forward, her expression cold as stone. A faint hum filled the air, and Kane felt the ground vibrate under his boots. Mercer and his men stiffened, their hands tightening on their weapons. The leader's voice came sharp and clear in Kane's mind. "They have crossed the line. They will not leave alive." Kane raised his hands quickly. "No. Don't do this," he said, looking at both sides. "You kill them, and the colony will see it as war." The cold-eyed alien stepped closer to Mercer. Her movements were so smooth, they seemed unreal. She was within striking distance now. Kane moved fast, placing himself directly between them. "Mercer, lower your weapon," he said. "This is your last warning." Mercer's jaw tightened. "You've gone soft." "Kane," he said, "move aside." Kane didn't move. The air was thick with tension, every second stretching like a drawn bowstring. He could feel the heat of the alien's presence behind him. If she decided to strike, there would be no stopping her. Finally, Kane made a choice. He stepped back, not away from Mercer, but toward the alien, his voice low. "If you kill them, you kill any chance of peace," he said. "I'm asking you to trust me one last time." The leader's eyes locked on his. For a moment, there was no sound except the soft rustle of leaves. Then, slowly she stepped back. The others followed. Her lead, the hum in the air fading. Mercer let out a short, nervous laugh. "Looks like you've made some friends, Kane," he said. "But this isn't over." Without another word, he motioned to his men, and they disappeared into the trees. Kane stood still until the sound of their boots faded. Only then did he turn back to the alien leader. Her expression was unreadable, but her voice in his mind was sharper than a blade. "You risked yourself for them, but their greed will return. And next time we will not hold back." Kane knew she was right. He also knew Mercer now had proof of the crystal's existence. That meant trouble was no longer a possibility. It was coming, and when it came, he would have to choose a side. The choice and ending. The jungle was quiet again, but it was not the calm of safety. It was the silence before a storm. Kane stood on the plateau, staring at the path where Mercer had vanished. The alien females were still watching him, their expressions unreadable. The leader stepped closer, her presence like a shadow that carried weight. "Now you have seen, human." Her voice echoed in his mind. "You know what your kind will do if they learn the truth." Kane didn't answer immediately. The image of the crystal heart still burned in his memory. The warmth of its light, the steady pulse that felt alive, and the knowledge that one day, humans would come for it. "You're asking me to choose," he said quietly. "Between my people and yours." The leader's gaze did not soften. "There is no yours and ours. There is the heart, and there is destruction." Kane looked toward the distant colony. It was barely visible through the haze, a cluster of metal and glass in the endless green. He thought of the people there. Families, workers, children. He thought of the greed that fueled men like Mercer, and he thought of the warning he had been given. If he sided with the aliens, he could protect the heart, but it would mean betraying his own kind if he sided with the humans. He could defend the colony, but the heart of Arden 5 would be lost forever. Either choice carried a cost he could never take back. The leader stepped closer until she was only a breath away, her eyes locked on his. When the time comes, the heart will call to you, and you will answer. Do not make us regret our trust. Cain felt the weight of her words settle in his chest. He had not promised them anything, but deep down, he already knew what he would do. They led him back to the border in silence. When they stopped, the leader gave a single nod. Then they turned and disappeared into the mist, moving without sound. One moment they were there, the next, the jungle had swallowed them completely. Cain stood alone, the border behind him, the colony ahead. Every step toward home felt heavier than the last. When he finally saw the first lights of the settlement, he knew Mercer would be waiting. And Mercer would have questions. He also knew that somewhere, deep in the alien lands, the crystal heart was still pulsing, its light steady, its memory unbroken. And when the time came, when the storm broke, Cain would have to choose. Not for survival, not for loyalty, but for the future of two worlds. Only one human had been brave enough to walk into the alien lands. Only one had seen the heart, and now, only one would decide whether peace or war came next.